So we are using Tomcat here, and when you actually enter into the real-time situation, this can be different. So people, I mean, the project, in your project, they may be using WebLogic or anything, but don't worry. See, everything, all the pattern of Java coding will be same, right? There won't be any change. Now, if you can see here, in a okay. So everything, right? Whatever we have written in our web service part to get the data or retrieve something, right? Everything is same. And I've shown you completely on SOAP protocol itself, and this is the best protocol which you can use, right? Where all the SOAP protocol APIs we can derive from the KSOAP2, which is the Android certified one, right? And then you can see we are more interested on visual links, right? Visual link in the sense we are not interested. See, visual link is something we can actually get it from any web server. Now, as of now, as I have deployed my web service on Tomcat, right? Now, that is why I'm actually showing you Tomcat and all, right? But if you are a code developer, let's say you are developing only the front end of Android, right? Then you don't have to worry about, let's say you are not taking care of anything on web service, right? Then it doesn't matter on what platform your web service is being deployed. It can be on Tomcat, it can be on WebLogic or JBoss or even in web service being developed on let's say IIS, which is a .NET web service, right? You will get something called visual file in the same way, right? So which means if you are able to access this visual file, which will actually give you some, let me just show this visual file. Let me copy this, and I've just started my server actually. So copy, you will get everything in an XML manner. Now this is the format which every visual file will give you, where you can see what exactly is the method name, which is, we normally call it as a web method. All the web service methods. Now here in our case of web service, we have stored WS, right? So here we have created a Java resources, source, com.c.service and all, right? Yeah. Yeah, Sandhya, go ahead. I'm just unmuting on. So what's the question?
So Srinath, you have created a web service on the basis of access to.
Yeah, access to, yes, yeah.
So what is the difference between those? There are three types of servers or what?
Okay, let me show you that.
Access to and some CFX or something.
Yeah, there is CXF, let me show you that. Okay, so we have used this access to, right, web services.
Yeah.
Right now. So I'm actually showing you access to web services. So if you remember, for access to, we have, this is something which is Apache's product, access to APIs, right? And most of the servers are compatible with this access to support to web service. CXF is something which is
rather than access, this is the advanced version of access to.
I'm sorry.
There is two access and access to web services.
Yeah.
So saying that most of the things support access to web service.
Exactly. Yeah.
So
access to why? Yeah. Go on. What is that?
It is the advanced one of Tomcat, Apache Tomcat web service.
No. Web service. No. Access to is a type of web service. No, it is not a web server.
No,
there is
web service and it's a type of web service. So in there you have two types of web services, access and access to.
Exactly, yeah, you have two actually. One is access and one more is, so okay, let me show you that one. So when I create, let me close this and right click on this. So let me just show you new create web service. Now when you click, also you are talking about these two, right?
Yes,
You have access and access to, right?
Yes.
Now if you are actually getting the access APIs, right, then you have to select this. Now the initial version of access type of web services was access.
Okay.
Right? And your Eclipse will support both access and access to. And CXF is nothing but the native web service type of I would say Java or Eclipse, which is again an Apache's product. And CXF is something which is mostly compatible with only Tomcat.
Okay.
And sometimes,
Compatible with some other server also.
Axis Web Service can be deployed on even other servers like WebLogic also.
Okay.
Yeah. No, I'm not saying the C. If you're creating any CXF, right, you can also deploy this, but you'll have to follow some extra configuration steps, which may or may not work. Even that is there. But Access 2 is something which is pre-configured for multiple web servers which you have in market. Right? I'm not talking about, it may not be configurable by the latest servers, but who will be using latest servers, right? It will take some time to actually people to cultivate that web server, right? Let's think about the initial server, which is CGI, scripting, which used to work on Tomcat and all, right? Old servers, right? Now after that, actually Oracle introduced WebLogic, which was completely built on the high end of Java technologies, right? Now, which will actually work for complete, it will work on C++ compatible things. It works on Fusion compatible things of, Now, I hope you know that WebLogic is one of the Fusion component. Right? It is an integrated component which can work towards SOA and different components of Fusion. Right? Which means if you are actually deploying your web service of type X2, right, you can actually integrate your web service through the server component of your product. And if you are able to connect to these two, and your Android will be one of the component which you can connect. In this way, you can go ahead. Right?
So Access is like older one, Access 2 is newer, and now this is the latest Apache.
Yeah, Access 2 is the latest one. Yeah.
Okay.
And why I'm actually showing Access 2 is, Access 2, in Access 2 there can be the .x versions also, right? But all the Access versions which are 2.x will be supported by the Eclipse first, because Eclipse will also support that writing a web service on that, right? So that is the reason why. Now whenever we create, right, why do we add Access to APIs is, so whenever you deploy this web service, now what is the main use of this? I'll just let you know. Whenever you create a website with Access to web service model, right, all the APIs will be automatically added to the complete project, which means you deploy anywhere. Now, which is you deploy anywhere. Where is that? lib1, right? You deploy anywhere, taking an EAR or WAR file of this project, right? You already have all the jar files of Access to in this project, right? It will actually give you a direct support, first point. Second thing is that all the jars, whatever we have, right, is already been made compatible to the mainly for SOAP and HTTP protocols. And all the web servers basically give support to both the protocols, which is SOAP and HTTP. That is one thing which is HTTP protocol.
Okay.
Yeah, right. In HTTP, you normally, I hope you know, in HTTP we normally do communication using XML messaging protocol, right? But in SOAP, you can actually have a messaging protocol as a direct object, serialized object, right? And Access to supports that, right? And you can see here we are actually sending a string, right? We are actually creating a string as a return type, which means we are actually streaming an object type, and we are able to get the same string in our main, in one of the interface of our Android actually, which means we are actually trying to get response using object messaging protocol through SOAP protocol, right? So that is how we can actually create.
So okay.
Yeah. Okay.
So you will show how to send the message and all.
Yeah, this is what actually we're doing. So we'll just do that one. Dynamic. We have already done one thing, right? So let me show you how we can actually create a dynamic one. Okay. So if you want, we can create a simple XML, or we can actually create something like string appending itself. Let me show you how we can actually make things simple, right? Now, I hope we have already seen something like, we have created this My Store, which is a web service. After one class where I have created a simple Java class, and from this Java class I have created a web service. You can see services. This is your web service, which is Sri.service. You can see this one, Now this is something which will actually we will be getting this when we actually check out the link, all the XMLs, right? Now let's actually make it a bit bigger. Now here what we are doing is we are doing something which is completely static. Now let's make it a bit dynamic, which means what I'm going to do here is let me just create a simple file here. So let me go to Notepad. Let me just create a new text document. Let me just say this as stored items. These are text files, right? Let me open this. Now here, so what I'm going to do here is let's say we have some things like apple, mango, right? Let's say we have these items. Let me save this. Now what I'm going to do here is, so you can just think that, so I'm going to read this file dynamically through web service, right? And I'm going to send the same data, so through Android I'm going to access the web service method, which is getFruits, right? And I'm going to get the complete data, right? And I'm going to manipulate something and show it on a screen. And what happens is, whenever I change any of the details in my Notepad, right, I don't have to change the complete code. I don't have to redeploy anything. I don't have to do anything, which is same as if you change anything on database, right? And if you are trying to access that from web service, which means for every change, for every request to the web service, you will be getting a new set of data from database, right? So that is what we are going to do. Now in this case, we are actually taking a simple text file where we have some data. So in this text file place, you can just think of any database as such. Now here what we have to do is we have to read the file first, right? Now here what I'm
creating the different Android project.
No, we are going to read it from say my store. Now this is a web service, right? Now wherever we have read it, right? So we have already created this method called get service, right? Sorry, get fruits, right? Which we have called it from here. Get fruits, right? Now from here itself, what we are going to do is we are going to read something which is dynamic, right? So whenever I change something on my Notepad, it is so everything on refresh of my Android activity, right? That latest data will be populated. Now this is something which is a dynamic pushing, right? Now let's do that. Now in order to get this right, you can actually use any protocol you want. So when I say any protocol, which means you can actually get the items in XML format, let's say, right? If you have a bigger data, like let's say you are trying to get the user details, right? Then you will be using XML, right? XML protocol. Now where each and every tag will be for like username and let's say current status and what is the date of birth and all. You'll be getting different things in different XMLs, because XML is a only raw area or raw format where you can actually map a tag with a value, and when you have a tag with a value, you actually can get the actual value for that particular business tag. But here let's consider that we have a simple text file where we have the items. So let me write a simple next I'll create a new workspace here, which is new package. Let me just say com.c or something like common. Let's have now in this common, let me create a class here, CLS get, or let me call it a CLS something called repository type. Okay, let me just say CLS repo. So this will actually give us a this will actually read the file and make and arrange the details in a, let's say, string format with some speaker which is delimiter, and then that string we have to send it to the Android app. Let's think of that. So let me just create a method here which is public string. Let's say get fruits here, fruit list, let's say fruits list. Now here I am going to create a string list, and I'm going to return this here, right now. Here, so what we are going to do is we are going to read the file, right? So in order to read the file, again we will be taking a file option. So let me create a file which is lobj file is equal to new file of the path. So as of now, let's take the same path which we have, which is so this path, and then you have the name which is .txt, let's say. And you can see in Java you have to mention your escape sequence, because slash is something which is an escape character, right? You have to mention an escape sequence. Now this is something which you gave a file. Now once the file is ready, now we have to follow the decorative pattern. I hope you know decorative pattern in files. Now until unless you have a decorative patterns, you can't read the file, right? Now
So can you explain it please a little bit? Decorative pattern.
which part? The file part?
The patterns. The pattern you said you
Okay,
I hope you know it.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah.
I'll do that. No issues. Yeah. Now, so in files in Java, right? In Java file systems, there are two different tokens here. One is a file, and another is a input, which is IO streams, we say. Right? Streams. Now, normally, what do we call is files and IO streams are same. Normally, we say that, right? IO stream is nothing but a file. We are trying to read or write a file, but that is not true. Now, file is something which is like a class which is used only to handle the physical form of file. You can create a file, you can delete a file, right? You can rename a file, you can copy a file, right? All these physical form of files you can do using file class. Now, when it comes to IO streams, right, which is input and output streams. Now, this is a actual this is actual area where you will get some classes which is actually used to handle the data part of a form. Now, inside the file, you want to write some data, read some data, append some data. Everything is done using this. And when you combine these two, right? When you combine these two, then you can do some IO operation on a file. Now that is what we call file IO systems. Now combination of these two is nothing but a decorative pattern, right?
Oh, okay.
Fine. You may want to read a file in a byte form, right? In a byte form, and you want to convert it to string and display. First thing. Second thing, let's say you want to read file in a byte form and print it in a line by line in a string form again. Now, in order to do this, right, you have to choose your IO stream. Now here in decorative patterns, we have many of IO streams. Like, so one of the ones, let me show you one of that. Now you have some, yes, Sandhya?
Yeah, file IO, buffered IO, so many.
Exactly. You have something called buffered readers and writers. So we can do two things. Either you can read a file or write a file, right? I'm talking about IO streams. I'm not talking file. Using file, you can also delete. You can also rename. Just keep everything aside. So when it comes to IO streams, which means first step you have to take a stream. Now I'm actually building a decorative pattern here, which means first I'll be taking stream. What type of stream you want to use? Now here, what type of stream I want to use? I want to read data. And I want to read data, let's say character by character, which means I have to take one of the stream. Now if you go in depth of IO streams, you have two different type of streams. One is character stream and another is byte stream, right? Now if you take byte stream, which means this basically comes up as input stream or output stream. When it comes to character, you get it as a reader or writer. Now both are under IO streams, but only difference is when it comes to character stream. In this case, reading and writing will be done character by character. But when it comes to byte input or output stream, right, which means reading or writing will be done byte by byte. That is the difference. But here,
Okay.
you have to choose any one of them. Let's say I want to read character by character. Now these all things are done inside Java. Now let's say I'm going to take buffer. You can see here you have buffer reader and buffer input stream, let's say, right? Now input stream is something which will actually talk about bytes, and reader is something when I take reader, which means I'm going to read my file character by character, and it will append the character by character, and buffer reader will actually give you a complete line as an output. That is why we are going to use one of the declarative pattern called buffer reader. Fine. Now let me make it as LOBJBR, which is buffer reader is equal to. Now you can see here, buffer reader needs a reader. What is the type of reader you want? Now as we are going to read a file, right? So here we are going to take a file reader. You can see there is a file reader, which is LOBJ, let's say file reader is equal to me. And the file reader needs what is the file I have to read. You can give LOBJ file, and you have to give file reader also. Now this is called as a declarative pattern. Now you have followed steps. First step is you created an object of file pointing to some file, right? Second step is you created a file reader, which means this file reader is something which acts as a pointer to this file, right? And buffer reader is something which will use this file reader to read line by line from this store items. So that is what we get a final file declarative pattern, right? So once your buffer reader is ready, now you can read line by line. Now how can you read this? So let me just take a string here as LSTL line as empty string first, and then we have to loop on, so which is file. So here it's very important, look it out. So I have LSTR line is equal to, right, I take LOBJ buffer reader dot, you have something called read line. You can see that your readers will have a direct read line method. It will read a complete line and give it to STL line, this, and then I'm going to check until it is not equal to null, which means when it comes to the end of file, right, there will be nothing, right, which means at that point I have to end read. That is why I said not equal to null, and I'll just create this. Now this will actually give us a line by line. So first what I'll do, I'll just print it out. This is out of LSTL line. So let me create one dummy class to just run this. So let me create a class called CLS main, and in this let me create a main method and I'm going to create a CLS repo object, obj is equal to name repo, and then I'm going to call obj dot, you have get fruit list, right? This is just I'm taking to test whether this method, which is CLS repo class method called get fruit list, is reading this data or not, right? We'll see that now. So once you are done with completely reading, then it is very important to close everything. Why do we need to close readers, or why do we need to close the file here? Now once you start reading the file, right, so the file will go to log state. Now which means externally if you want to change anything in that file you can't, because the file will be in a read-only mode. So that is the reason why once you are done with the readers, right, you should close them. Now, and you should close them directly here, like let's say the first one is file reader. You can just close file reader, which is file reader dot close, and then your buffer reader, which is a buffer reader dot normally. You can directly use close. Now this will actually close. Now first, when you say buffer file reader dot close, which means this will actually dispose the connection between or pointer between the this text file. And when you close buffer header, which means it is actually completely disposing the complete decorative pattern itself. And this file will be free enough for some other transaction, right? So let us run this and see whether it is getting the list of details or not. So when I run this, it is Java application. Now you can see it is getting everything. Now when I change anything here, let's say I'm going back here, I'll just add some more, let's say watermelon. I'm just adding something, save it up, go back and run this without changing. You can see even that will be added. Right? Now here what we're getting is we are getting all the details we want. Right? Now let's go back to CLS repo here, which means now let me close the CLS name, which means my method here is working fine. Right? Now here what I'll do, once the reading is done here, what I'll do here is I am going to append them in some pattern. So let's say I'm going to take a string lstr final data is equal to some. Now this final data I'm going to append everything I am getting. So let's say plus I have lstr line. Now in between this, right, which means it will append each and everything, right, and in between this we have to do some separator so that whenever we get these details in our Android, right, we should be able to differentiate this, right? So let me just take one character. Let me take a pipe character here, right? So that this is my delimiter, right? So if you want to see, let me show you how it will be shown. Let me just say final data. So let me open this main and run this again. Now you can see this is how it will be shown, right? So what it will do, it will actually take each and every fruit and it will append this pipe symbol. Now you can see this is one of the form of object I am going to send it to the Android. And there what I am going to do, once I get this data, I am going to read the data and split it up using pipe symbols and all, and I am going to get each and every fruit I have, and then I will show it on a Android activity. So right, that is what I am going to do. Fine. So let me close this, and now you are actually ready with your CLS repo. Now here what I'll do, instead of just hard coding this, right, what I'll do, lstr fruits, I'll just create an object of CLS repo as obj is equal to new CLS repo here, and then I'll call the method called obj.getFruitsList. Fine. Now this is how you can actually call the now this will actually internally, whenever we change anything, right, it will actually, as it is going to read it dynamically, right, it is not keeping file in cache, right. Every time we get request for something, a fresh request will be sent, and the file reading will be done afresh, and whatever data is the latest will be retrieved over here, and this will be sent to the Android app through internet.
Srinath, just check the return statement of the class repo.
Yes, any.
You have.
Okay, so we have to return the list, right? Okay, we have list. So let me just remove this list. Okay, we can use. I think I can use final data. Yeah. Thank you, Sanjay. I forgot. Yeah. So now it will return the final data, right? Perfect. Okay, so now till this part, our web service part is done, right? Which means now I'll give you again, if you change anything in any class, right? Now we have done so many changes to classes, we have created so many classes. Now what you have to do, you have to create the complete web service again. Again, in the sense, select the main class which we have, right click on this, again go to web services, create web service. Make sure you are selecting your access to here, click on OK, and you can just say start service, or if you want to test, you can test it. Now just check whether you are using the actual server or not. Yeah, everything is done, right? And just say override files without one. Click on next, right? So everything will be fine. Click on finish again. So what it will do, it will actually start up your Tomcat starting server here, and it will actually show the method actually. Right? I think it is a web browser here. Now web browser will actually deploy this and it will actually create your link. You can see this is a link being created. Right? So let me just click on some post here. You can see there are methods. Click on get fruits. Click on go. Now you can see it gives only apple. Why it is giving only apple? Okay, I got it. Because the server, right, you can see it is just destroyed. Now we are actually we have already started this Tomcat, right? No, this should not run. That is why it is giving the output called apple, right? Now when we started the server, right, you can see it actually failed. It is saying destroy because our Tomcat externally was running. That's fine. So what we'll do, instead of this, we'll just deploy manually, which is, anyways, we have to do the deployment, right? So let me rebuild the project, right? And let me take a war file of this, export war file, and now this store WS we have already created in our path, which is in our D path. Click on finish. Now when you click on finish, it will create a war file. Now the war file will be this. Now you can see date time. It's on 24th, 10/24. We have the latest time. Now we have to deploy this. So in order to deploy, go to Tomcat. Now this is a Tomcat we have. Click on manager app. Now you have to give username and password. Click on OK. Right now we have already deployed one. Just undeploy this. Now you can see undeployed context, which is store WS. Click on browse again. And this is a web service what we have created. Select on that and deploy. So if there is any problem with deployment, right, just do something that, just go to the Tomcat server, restart the Tomcat server, and that should work fine, right? So here we have deployed a brand new web service. So web service with some changes in classes, right? So let's restart the server. Let me click on shutdown batch and start up batch again. We will start the server. You can see store WS is being deployed, right? My server has started. Now here let me just refresh this region to check whether, yeah, my link is ready now, because I restarted my server and my link here is ready. Now you can see if you stop your server, right, just check out what happens. Now let's say I've stopped my server. When I run this link, now it will actually wait for some time and it will say, it can't establish because my server is down. This is what we call the server is down. Now if I start my server again, now it's going to start here. Yeah. Okay. Now let's check whether it is up or not. Right now it is up and running. Perfect. Now, so my web service is now up and running. Now what we'll do? Now it's time to go back to the. Let me just close this web service part. Now let's go to the app. Right. Now you can see here we are getting the response here, right? And what we are doing, we are actually mapping things directly to the text data here, right? So instead of the text data, what we'll do, let me go to the main activity again and let's take a list view, let's say. Right? So let me go to the main data here.
I think you have to give the file also dynamically.
I'm sorry, Sanjay. File dynamically?
You have given the file name directly over the file path.
Yes, because I know that the file will be the same, right?
Okay.
Yeah, the file will be the same, and see this file, what I'm showing here, right? Think that this is my server, and in this server this is my file which I've created, and whenever I'm going to access from my mobile phone, right, which means it is going to access the file which is in server, read the file and then show the data. Reading the file is dynamic, right? And changing the file, which we can change anytime we want without touching any app or any web service part, right? We can change that. Everything is dynamic. But the only thing is file name, which, see, normally what we are talking about is database name will be same, right? And database server will be same. But the only thing what will be changing is data in the database. Fine? Same as this. Fine, Sandhya?
Yeah.
Yeah? Okay. Now,
And one more question is, so
Sure, sure.
whenever you are changing to web service, you have to recreate it every time.
whenever you are okay, see, it is like this. If you are changing something, right, now if you are not touching any of your actual web methods part, then you don't have to recreate. Okay, but if you are yeah, if you are not changing anything on the actual web service class, then you don't have to change anything. Only thing is, let's say I'm changing any of the lines in my web methods, right, which means I have changed the complete structure of my XML, right? But then you have to create a web service. That's it. As I've changed some of the lines in my main my store, and my store is something using which I'm creating web service, right? And I've also created some common classes. Now these doesn't matter. Why? Because the calling methods, web methods are same, but the logic has changed. I can just rebuild and take a war. That's it. You don't have to create a separate web service for that. Right?
Okay.
Perfect. Now let's get back to the main activity here, and so let me take open up. So here let me take up a simple list view here. Okay, so it is actually giving up the complete file. That's fine. So what we'll do here is okay, so let's say this is my list view here. Now let me just give the name as list view something like data. So here what we are going to do here is, now instead of taking text data, we are going to take the list view. Simple. Now reading part here is something which is straightforward again. But the only thing is, let's see how we can actually use a split up data. So let me create a list view here as LOBJ LSTP something, and then here itself let's create a object for that. Either ID or R dot ID dot list view data, and then typecast it to list view, and then so we have an object been created. So let's come up here. If you want to show all the data, let's show that, and also now here let's write the logic. After this showing, so here let me write the logic of splitting the data. It is not a big logic. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to take a string array here as LSTR, let's say details is equal to, and I'm going to split the data as dot split of some pipe symbol, because pipe symbol is the one which are used for a data appending, right? Now once you are done with this pipe symbol, which means you will get all the details in this, right? Now once you get all the details, now it's very simple that you can create a array adapter with the string, let me call it as LOBJ adapter is equal to new. Now let's take the resource again, application context, and the resource here, let me just say r dot layout, which is Android here, dot, let me take it as simple list item, and the resource will be the details, right? Now this is the adapter which is ready now, and then you let's take list view dot set adapter of adapter. Right. Now this will actually populate the list view, and let's see how it works. So what I'm going to do here is, first let me just rebuild the project, and before running this project let me check the WSDL file again. So let me copy this WSDL file, run it again in a browser. Okay, my WSDL file is working fine. So let's open up this and run this activity. So you have this, and click on get. Now you can see you got everything here, right? You have your, anyways, you have something called Apple pipe. Okay, you even got this. That's fine. You can just, but you can see that all the data being populated. But let's see why we are getting this pipe symbol here. Now we are splitting with this pipe symbol. We should not get that pipe here. So we'll just test this again. Let's go to the web service. Let me just go to main here. Now let me just take this string lstr data is equal to so and so, and I'm going to take a string array as lstr something t is equal to lstr data dot split of some pipe here. And then we're going to take for each here, we're going to string. Perfect. Now let me run this and see what happens. Okay, why it is taking this? We have a pipe symbol here, and it should not do. Let me just debug this once. So here you have got the data, which is just perfect. And then when I'm going to split this F6, you can see even this pipe symbol is coming. So for that, let's say I'm going to remove the spaces and on, and debug this again. F6. So it is giving much more. Let me keep it as a character here. As a pipe. Let's see what happens. Terminate. Now this will take a string. Let me take. So let's do one thing. In my get fruits here, so what we'll do, instead of this one, let me take some @ any dpinter we can use. Let me just take @ here, which is a string. Yeah, I hope you got it now. It is pipe symbol. It seems it was giving some problem. That's fine. Now you can see Apple mango source is also perfect. You got some data now. So what I'm going to do here, now the first detail which I'm getting, right, I don't want the first detail. So let me just skip that, because I have to change the logic here. Let me go to Java mode and go to split up here. Now whenever I'm adding @ right, I'll have to come back to this and change split to @ again. Let me just do that. And in this logic, I have to make sure that this is not whenever I am adding it for first time, I don't need @. So what I'll do, I'll just say if, let's say final data dot trim dot length, let's say, is equal to 0, then just add it up, which is adding in the sense, I'll just take this, else let me add this. Right now, if I run this from main here, now you can see it's perfect now. Wherever first one and last one didn't get any at the rate as a prefix or suffix, right? We'll just get at the rate here. Perfect. Perfect. So when I give some space here, much better. Okay. Now let's go ahead and see what happens now. So here, what I've done is I've changed my web service. I've changed my web service to the at the rate here. Now I've changed only one of the class. I have not changed any of my web service part. Now, which means I don't have to deploy any, I don't have to change anything here. I just have to redeploy this because I've changed some of the classes in my repo. And the same change I've made here as at the rate. Now let me just redeploy the complete web service here. Let me rebuild the project and take a new WAR file here. Oops. I'll just say export. Why is it not giving a complete WAR file? Close on. Let me just open this. That's fine. Let me just take a WAR file as this and finish. This will give me this, and let's go back here to this. Let me undeploy this. It got undeployed. Let me browse and deploy it again. This is 1040. Perfect. Deploy. It's fine. Go ahead and check the result file. Perfect. Now let's run the project again. My store here. Go to the service com and my activity. In my activity, we are reading it using at the red delimiter. Perfect. Now let me rebuild the project and run this again. Okay, so let me click on get. Yeah, now you can see everything went fine. Now you can see till watermelon, everything was fine, like apple, mango, grapes. Right? You can just populate that. Now let's do one thing. Let's change the file without changing anything here. Now let me just add something here like blue, something. I just added. Now this is something which is dynamically being done, right? Now let's go back here and click on get again. Now you can see, right? Everything again, it's blue, apple, and so on. So this string is something which you're getting, and I'm actually populating the same thing to list view. But if you delete anything, let's say you're deleting some things here, right? Save it up, go back and get. You can see, right? Now you can see, so here you can see that I'm changing some file and I'm reading my app, right? So this won't be this simple, right? What you're doing, you're actually trying to access a server which is at a remote place, and that web service is actually reading the file dynamically. After reading file, it is building the string object, and then it is sending over the internet to your mobile phone, and the mobile phone, your app is reading the internet, and from that internet it is actually retrieving the object, converting it into string, and then it is giving. That is what is actually happening here, right? But the thing is going on is a dynamic, right? So this is something which this is how you can actually get the data dynamically. Fine. So any questions here? Fine. So this is how you can actually create multiple things and populate them and get the data. And now you can actually create so many background processes you want, right? Now, as of now, what we have done is we are actually creating a background thread, right? Which is a finite thread, right? You can actually make this infinite by putting in infinite while loop, which we have already seen in our background thread, right? I've created an infinite loop where I'm actually showing the time, right? Time ticking on the screen, right? You can actually apply the same logic here, which means you are continuously reading the web service, and when whatever you want the data, you are getting the data and doing some operation, populating something or doing some background operation, right? So you can actually apply all the background threads here to read the data and operate. Only thing what you have to remember is whenever you're everything, internet or the connectivity, data connectivity should be a must and should be done in a separate thread. A direct access of internet is not allowed. If you just try to access this, details directly without thread, right? Just check out. It will actually directly crash your. It will crash your app. Right? It should be done asynchronously. You can see as we are actually going asynchronous, which means you are actually going out of the UI thread, right? And if you want to populate something or show something on UI, which means you have to access a UI thread. Now, normally in our plain Java or in .NET, right? How can we access a plain UI thread? By using delegates. In .NET, basically, we use delegates too. You have to create a delegate by your own. You have to create an event handler for that delegate and route the data. But in Android, it's a straightforward single method called run on UI, right? And this run on UI will actually get your actual UI thread, where you are actually able to access all your controls, and you can populate everything as same as normal data as we normally do in this, right? And now you can actually increase the concept, right? And whatever you want to do, you can just try out multiple things here, right? And yeah, this is how you can actually dynamic to do. Now, as you have seen file, you can actually do this for even database or something you want, right? Now, this is how normally things work. Now, in your email part, I'll take an example of email app or news app, let's say. For every interval or right for some certain time, it will actually take the server web service, which is like, it will be going in a continuous loop, let's say, and it will check for a new mail or something. If there is a new mail, then it will go and access inbox database. It will get a new mail and it will actually pop it to you. Same as Facebook app, let's say, right? Facebook gets a continuous feed. How is it getting? It has to read something, right? It has to continuously read the feed. If there is a new feed, then it will access the feed database, get the feed, and it will show you. That is how you can actually read things, right? And this is all about creations and different deploying and accessing of web services. And I hope whatever we have done is over the network. Actually, you can actually try this. Definitely, it will work. And one more thing is that try this using your mobile phone. Whatever we have done deployed here, right? Now keep your machine on. Keep this machine on your laptop and keep your Tomcat ready. Deploy it up and whatever web service you have created, right? Try to use the same web services which we have used it here, and keep the Tomcat server up and running. And try to install this APK file in your mobile phone and try to access. If your Tomcat is exposed to the internet, right, then it will definitely will access your web service. Then you will actually get a feel of actual accessing of web service in an app. Try out that. Right, and you can see in Tomcat, you can see all the logs will printed. Now, whatever you sys out, right, in web service or any component of web service, if you use sys out, everything will be printed on Tomcat console. Now, this is not a console of Java. This is a Tomcat console, right? It will give you everything whatever you print there. Now, that is what we are getting here, right? Now you can see here when I run this. See here what happens when I click on get here, right? See, you can see here, right? My Tomcat is responding to my app. Let me just change something on a notepad here. So let me just do Control Z. Okay, I want everything. Now let me open the Tomcat instance and the console. You can see the last line is this. When I click on Get, you can see my Tomcat is responding here. Every request I'm actually triggering my server, and whatever request I'm asking for, it is actually getting the same. Click on any number of times. See, and there is one more important thing here. See, your app will not be used only by one person, right? It will be used for multiple guys. Don't worry about that. Your Tomcat, your web server will take care of handling multiple threads at the back end. Now let's say if I'm clicking 1, 2, 3, 4 times, which means I've actually called 4 different requests. But you can see it is actually mapping. See here, it actually maps and gets the 4 different requests parallelly. Right? So that is how it works. Right? And this web service will work for multiple users too. Right? Because the database will be one standalone database, and in that database, let's say based on the user credentials, it is trying to get something. It will get it. So this is all about web services and all, right? So by this we are done with things. So we'll be having one class. So in next class, what we'll do is I'll try to get the APIs of location, which is tracking. The main reading of the location will be done with latitude and longitude itself, right? If you can provide the latitude and longitude to the Android Compass API, right? It will actually map the things and it will actually give you the location, right? So that's how you can do. So whatever we can do, but you can't run that on emulator, because emulator will not have the map or Compass API because it is heavy. But you can run that on if you prepare the APK, you can actually map it on your phone. Right? We'll see that you'll be able to access your app, right? App data in your machine's web service. Try out. If you're using same Wi-Fi router, then I hope it should work, because Wi-Fi router will actually create an internal LAN for you. If you're using the same working point in your laptop and in your desktop or in your mobile phone, whatever it is, if you're using the same Wi-Fi point, it will actually create an internal LAN for you, which means you can actually access your machine as a remote server. Right? Just try it out. If it works, it works.